Welcome to the Innovators and Investors podcast. I'm Kristian Marquez, founder and CEO of Finstrat Management. At Finstrat, we provide CFO-led accounting, finance, and reporting services to assist clients monetize their business. Stick around to the end of the podcast and I'll share how you can be our next guest. Now on to the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Innovators and Investors podcast. I'm your host, Kristian Marquez, founder and CEO of Finstrat Management. Super excited because today we have with us Patrick Russo, founding CEO of OnStation. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Our pleasure. So with that, if we can kick things off, would love to hear a little bit about OnStation and the problem that the company is solving.
Sure. OnStation is a software that we focus on roadway construction projects. And at our core, we tell people where they are on the project. Sounds pretty simple, but when your job site is 7 miles long and maybe a football field wide, knowing where you are is very challenging. So we tell them where they are, and then we give them tools that make them better when they're there so they can document what they're doing and they can share that with others.
And so can you share the inception of the idea? It sounds like there's tremendous need for coordination and communication, but was there a particular event or something that happened that was the inception?
Yeah, it was, it started a little bit before my time joining the company, but it was, where are you and what are you doing? And there was a project manager that was having this question over and over, and that was where it kind of started. There's got to be a better way to do this. The way we do this now, we hammer stakes in the ground and we write numbers on them, or we spray paint numbers. Or when you drive through a construction zone, you see spray paint on the wall. That's how we form a station. That's how we view our stationing now. Stationing is another term for location. And so the need to locate yourself is always there, combined with the power of the cell phone. We say this is the most widely used piece of technology on every job. And as that grew in popularity and functionality, it really opened the door for this type of solution.
And then how did your personal background and experience shape the way that you approach building OnStation?
So my personal background, I grew up in a family business. My family had grocery stores. And so we kind of lived in that entrepreneurship, just get it done type atmosphere. We sold those stores my senior year of college, and I was on one path for 20 years and then I completely went on another path. And in general, my background's been somebody who I ask a lot of questions and I try to figure out what the actual problem is, which usually is not the problem that most people are trying to solve for. And I've had a handful of companies I've started or been a part of. Some have had a lot of success and some have had none, which is kind of pretty typical. This one I got introduced to through a mentor here in Cleveland. And my general philosophy is set the course, give your team members the tools to do their job and get out of the way. And just solve problems day after day. Take inefficiencies out, take roadblocks out, and make a mistake, find what you did right, do it again. Find what you did right, and that's how we iterate.
So OnStation, fortunate you have winner in your hands experiencing a lot of success. What's the longer term vision for the company right now?
To be the default location and documentation tool on all roadway projects, starting in the US and then beyond. They build roads the same way in Europe as they do here. And the app stores work just the same. You can download it wherever you are.
So in the beginning of any early stage company, there's a need to validate product market fit. What was OnStation's experience like?
It was very personal because these are typical construction workers on the field in active job sites. If you've ever been on the road and trucks are going by at 70 miles an hour, it's pretty scary. I would call these people. There was a time when I called everybody who downloaded OnStation. I personally called them and to hear in their voice, like, I'm lost out here until I got your product. I'm scared to be in traffic until I got your product. It helps me do my job better. It keeps me safer. And hearing that story was like, okay, great. We have something here that's solving a real problem. Our challenge was then taking that and convincing the bosses who haven't been out on the job site in maybe 10, 15 years, and they remember it differently. But that real need was legitimate and it's daily. And so tapping into that feeling is really what kind of motivates our team, because when you talk to somebody out there that says our app makes them better and safer, you're just motivated to be like, great, how do I get this in more hands?
And so with that, let's if we talk about adoption. No shortage of opinions or approaches that a company should take in order to facilitate uptake. Is your experience more start with boots on the ground and then make your way to the leadership within a contractor to get them to be on board with OnStation?
So yeah, right now we're in a kind of a transition phase, but to get to where we've been today, it was get it on a project, get folks using it, and then help them sell up, because you needed that validation of actually on the job. And that works. It's still working now. And there's a lot of technology in our space. There's a lot of junk technology. And what we learned from the decision makers were what separates the noise is that my guys are coming to me saying, we like OnStation. And so when they get calls from 20 software providers and one of them, their guys are telling them about, and it's our product, that's what separates it. And that was a grind, but that was, one-to-one calls, call everybody, see what they're doing. Now that we have that validation, we have enough customers, we are hiring folks and working both channels where we can go to the leadership team and say, we have these companies that look like you, and these are the benefits they're experiencing. If you deployed OnStation across your organization, this is what's going to happen to you. And we have enough validation and we're on enough projects for them to believe that.
And that makes good sense. And, when I think about it with my CFO hat on, I start to think about how do I allocate budget between product development and sales and marketing. Appreciating that you're hitting a new growth milestone. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you think about organic growth because of the product versus getting the word out that you exist.
Yeah, we're lucky that we kind of walk the line a little bit between traditional sales and marketing, outreach, and product-led growth. Because everybody who signs up in our app, I know who they are. We do the 30-day free trial. And so product-led growth is I get new people joining a project and I can see, well, that organization's new, we should go call them. At the same time, I think it's 92% of our roads are asphalt, and almost every state has a asphalt paving association that all of the big players are members of. So I know who my ICPs are and I can reach them through traditional marketing and sales outreach. And we kind of do that dance back and forth of how much do we put in the app to get more exposure versus how much do we work from a traditional sales standpoint. I liken it kind of as a tumbler. We go after the ICPs in a state and we get them using it. That bleeds us into the DOTs, project engineers, who are interested because they're better with it. You get in with the DOT district, they add more projects, it tumbles back over and they say, well, these are all of our contractors that are using it, or that are building roads in our state, go talk to them. So it's a back and forth, and we've made a lot of mistakes on it and we keep learning.
So, when I think about, measuring outcomes, sometimes it's really easy to focus on the dollars for ROI, but in this case, it also safety. And, I'd love to hear how you think about measuring success in terms of making sure that people on a job are safe and sound.
Well, one is functionality of the app. We you can build all the new features you want, but does it work well? And are the people getting the information that they need and getting out of it as quickly as they can, because you're on, apologies for that. You're on an active job site. So that is hard to measure, but we talk to folks and we get that feeling back. A lot of paving is done at night, and we hear firsthand that, it's dark out. The stakes are in the center median. You can't even find your stationing lath, but on the phone, you can view that. And so it is hard to measure. We're actually releasing a new safety feature soon that'll actually alert folks where these workers are. I can share more later when we announce it. But I'd say the biggest way to measure success is that our customers believe in us, that we take this as a priority. And you can't really fake that. You either have it as part of your product, as part of your mission, and they can feel that in the app. They can feel that in our support and our engagement, because it is something that's hard to track other than, I know this is part of your mission and part of what you're delivering, and my people feel safer using
it. It makes great sense. And so, tiny pivot here then. So let's talk about investors. I understand you have a number of outside investors on your cap table. Love to hear what your experience has been in raising outside money and what you look for in an investor.
Yeah, so we've been fortunate enough to raise 3 different rounds, total of I want to say 10.5 million-ish, which is pretty exciting. And what I look for in an investor is somebody who wants to build a product that has a lot of legs and build it right. I've talked to a lot of investors that are more kind of a churn and burn, spend and raise, and there's a model for that for certain products and certain investors. And we're very aggressive in our spending for sure, but we want to do it right and be impactful, because we feel like we've opened up an opportunity here, and the well runs dry eventually, unless you get enough validation to go raise again. So I look for investors that kind of have that mindset, and then that have other things that I don't, network connections in the industry. So we have a couple investors that own players in our space or have worked at other softwares in our space. And then I have other investors that are really good at stuff that you do and your firm does, because it's just not it's not one of my core competencies, and it's also not one of my core focuses, because I'm trying to build the business. I need that support. So the best investors kind of bring different mindsets and skill sets, so that as you're talking through your plan, they can present things or question things that we might not have seen.
And so with that, so it sounds like you have a great group of investors and there's alignment. What's your experience been with managing the company's growth alongside of their expectations?
It's fun. Every investor wants more, every board member wants more. I'll be honest, that earlier this year, we got a little ahead of ourselves, or ahead of your skis, as they like to say, where we had all these big projections and we were trying to go after it. And for the first time as a leadership team, we kind of got unaligned. We all went off and we're like, well, to scale and solve these problems, we all have to do this. And we onboarded 7 new people in a month, and just a lot of transitions, stuff that we were doing, when we had a certain number of customers didn't work when we doubled those customers. So we had to, separate the support from sales and separate the renewals from new logos. So we had to mature through some of that. But really at its core, we needed to just get back and focus on what were the main problems in front of us and how are we going to solve those, and the growth will take care of itself. When you try to do everything independently and try to go after numbers that, should be a stretch, you can kind of lose focus, and that's the worst thing that can happen. And as the team grows, it costs you more and more. When there's 5 people, you lose focus, it costs you a little bit. When there's 25 people, you lose focus. It's a big expense. And, we were that way for a few months. We've kind of reined it back in and pay investors, this is how we're growing the company. And, you're behind it or you're not. And that was a learning lesson, and we got through it, and things are kind of back on track, and we can tell where we're making progress and where we're not, and you keep moving forward.
I mean, and to your credit, I mean, a lot of founders in the audience, and sometimes I think this goes without saying, but just, being transparent with your investors and with your board, extremely valuable. Because I get the sense sometimes that people think it's always going to be a bed of roses, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
So with that, we touched on people. I'd love to hear your approach to attracting and training a great team.
Well, part of it's what you just said. It is transparency. It's this is where we are. This is the stage of the company. And my personal approach is I look for people that really have, life's kicked them a couple times. People who are looking for their next opportunity, who are in a role that they're not getting credit for, folks that really kind of want that chance to make an impact. And that's generally who I go after first. Then I turn it over to my team. They ask more of the technical questions, the experience questions. The folks that have made it here at OnStation can operate in the state of chaos and also believe in themselves. You talk to people, they're a cog in the wheel, they're one of 10,000 at a big company, and they feel kind of just hopeless and not really purpose driven. And we offer that here in exchange for the effort that is required to make this work. So we have a very high accountability in our culture. When my team says back to me, well, the OnStation way is to do it this way, the OnStation values are this, and this person might be struggling there, it's like you're living it. You can have words on a wall, or you can have culture that you talk about, but when the team's holding others accountable, it's awesome. And so that's how we operate. In exchange for that is, where the struggles are, what the sales are, what the expenses are, how much cash we have, where you stand in the company. I'm just transparent with people because you can't fake it. It's too hard to fake, and they're not going to believe in it and buy into it if you're not being authentic with them. I mean, that would be my back to the board as well. It is what it is. Tell them what it is. If you made a mistake, it's a mistake if you admit it today. It's a mistake if you admit it in 6 months. The only difference is you caused yourself 6 months more pain. So just figure out what's going on, clean it up, and then keep going.
Patrick, it's been an awesome podcast. Wish we had more time. Before we wrap up, what advice would you give an aspiring entrepreneur who's interested in following in your footsteps with an early stage company?
Yeah. Make progress. That could be one step at a time. It could be, hiring a babysitter so you have time to go to the library to research something, or to go to a conference to learn something. Like, that could be the progress that gets you to the next level. Don't look at me with I've got 6 employees, and we're flush with cash. We've raised a bunch of money. Don't compare yourself to me at this stage. There was a time when, I had a cell phone and I was in my bedroom, office, calling all of our customers. So just find other people that are in the stage you're at, solve a problem, go on to the next problem. Don't worry about what happens down the road, because if you don't get there, it doesn't matter. So just break it down. Where can I make progress little by little? Last thing I'd say is find people that can help you and be open to it. Share your ideas, share your struggles. There are lots of people, there are lots of money that's out there to help people that are willing to put the effort in and willing to be real about it. So don't worry about that. There's plenty of help along the way. You just have to get out there and ask for it and go after it.
Patrick, sage advice. Thank you for sharing with our audience. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, either someone who wants to be a part of the OnStation team or a potential future investor, how can they find you?
The easiest way is LinkedIn. I'm Patrick Russo. We're all over LinkedIn, my team, my company. I think my email is on the website, but if you hit me on LinkedIn, I'm on it. I've got 3 LinkedIn tabs open right now.
Perfect. Patrick, thank you again. Audience, Patrick Russo, founding CEO of OnStation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kristian Marquez here. Thank you so much for listening to the Innovators and Investors podcast. If you're a successful founder or an investor who would like to be on the podcast, please visit podcast.finstratmgmt.com/podcast-guest. If you've got something out of this interview, please share this episode on social media. If you know someone that would be a great guest, please tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Innovators and Investors. I'd love to see your posts and suggestions. We're regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you catch each new episode, please subscribe to the Innovators and Investors podcast. And your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and it means a lot to me and my team. Would you like to know more? Go to our website, finstratmgmt.com, or follow us on LinkedIn or on X. Our handle is @finstratmgmt. This is Kristian Marquez. Thank you for listening. Until next time.